Hello, I'm Adam Nayman, and in this Ringer video essay, I've tried to highlight 12 scenes from The Sopranos that give a sense of the series' range, intensity, and depth, qualities that many critics were split on attributing to the new prequel, The Many Saints of Newark.
What'd you say?
At its best, The Sopranos had the sprawl of a great novel, and some of its most remarkable moments exist in between the plot points. A few of the scenes I've picked here are to some extent throwaways and come from comparatively unimportant episodes. For instance, there's nothing from the hilarious Fargo-esque comedy of Pine Barrens, or even the brilliant series finale Made in America. Instead, this list is designed to highlight the versatility of the series' storytelling and approach to characterization, and also to provoke disagreement and discussion. Chances are your favorite scene isn't here, or if it is, you might interpret it in a different way than I did. Either way, you're free to let us know just how wrong we are in the comments. A boy's worst enemy is his mother. No character on The Sopranos was more brilliantly manipulative than Livia, who lived rent-free in her son Tony's head regardless of what nursing home or retirement community he wanted to stick her in. The big plot arc of Season 1 found Livia trying to get revenge on her ungrateful son by betraying him to her brother-in-law and his uncle and boss, Junior Soprano, with the pairing of two gossipy, malevolent senior citizens underlining the show's ruling theme of generational conflict and impasse. In Nobody Knows Anything, Livia lets it slip that Tony has been using her residence at Green Grove to hold meetings behind Junior's back. The way she slips seemingly accidental facts into her conversation shows that she speaks the same language of manipulation as the career criminals she's lived with and stood behind for her entire life as a mob wife. Nancy Marchand's acting in this scene, and really in every scene with Livia, captures a precise ratio of misanthropy to self-loathing. The equation of a woman who knows how unbearable she is and takes it out on everyone around her.
What did I say now?
My fucking dinner on the table and keep your mouth shut.
There are no white knights in the world of The Sopranos, and even a seeming damsel in distress like Janice isn't so helpless after all. In one of the best twists in the early history of the show, Janice does the dirty work her brother and his crew couldn't, by whacking Richie Aprile in the aftermath of an ugly domestic dispute. It's a great scene, not only for the ways it rerouted audience expectations about the show's second season, rendering Tony's ultimate showdown with Richie unnecessary, but thanks to staging that underlines the slapstick unpredictability of the character's world. Richie's certainty that his fiancée isn't going to pull the trigger melts into the same look of wide-eyed surprise that accompanies so many of the show's assassinations and their aftermath. Time and again on The Sopranos, characters talk about mortality by saying that you never see death coming, and Richie's final moments set an early standard for sudden death set pieces. In Employee of the Month, Dr. Melfi is forced to examine her relationship to Tony's power, a source of fascination but also critique in their sessions together. After being sexually assaulted and suffering trauma, Melfi imagines the satisfaction of sicking her most problematic patient on her assailant, effectively punishing one form of toxic violent male aggression with another. But when the opportunity to initiate vigilante justice presents itself, Melfi holds back. There's a beautiful moment here where Tony, who's concerned for his therapist and friend's well-being, gets up from his chair and for the first time crosses the imaginary axis in the center of her office, collapsing the distance between them in a gesture of chivalry. But it's a gesture that Melfi rejects, with a single word so terse, pent-up, and curt, but the episode has nowhere to go afterwards but a hard cut to black.
No.
Any show as popular as The Sopranos has a responsibility to confront and challenge its audience. And in Second Opinion, David Chase and his collaborators drop a gauntlet in the form of one Dr. Krakauer, who refuses to indulge Carmela's complaints during a therapy session. What Krakauer offers Carmela and the viewer is a cold shoulder and a hard wake-up call, skewering Carmela's rationalizations about Tony and his line of work and calling attention to her role as his enabler. An accusation that could just as easily be made of a viewership with warm, protective feelings about a mafia sociopath. As brilliantly and acerbically played by the character actor Sully Boyer, Dr. Krakauer is preaching nothing less than the gospel of accountability, and his advice to Carmela to leave Tony,
take only the children, what's left of them, and go,
and renounce her allowance of blood money, hangs over the rest of the series. including later season arcs that find Carmela testing the waters outside her marriage. Besides serving as a clear-eyed rebuttal to Tony and Melfi's chummy, complicitous therapy dynamic, Krakauer scene contains one of the most devastating lines in the show's run.
One thing you can never say that you haven't been told.
And the words seem carved in ice.
You're late.
Well, tomorrow I can be on time. But you'll be stupid forever.
Nobody on The Sopranos did Hateful better than Joe Pantoliano, whose Ralphie Cifaretto kept finding ways to lower the bar on his own repulsiveness. But Ralphie was also hilariously funny, and watching him outduel Paulie Walnuts during a sit-down over $50,000 is a masterclass in humiliation. When The Sopranos simply let back and let its ensemble cast members do their thing, the various intersections of interpersonal comedy were exquisite stuff. Ralphie and Paulie's sit-down is not particularly important to the show's overall narrative, or even to the big storylines of Season 3. But the editing packs in so much information about who's annoyed with who and why, including and especially Tony, who's irritated with everybody and doesn't hide it.
Sit the fuck down and shut up.
So that the banter and awkwardness radiate with the satisfaction of a great sitcom set piece. With this in mind, Furio's faceplant on the ice is a pratfall worthy of Kramer. The knack for turning even interstitial sequences into mini masterpieces is what separates The Sopranos from other pretenders to the long-form series throne. Its throwaways are often better than other shows' highlight reels.
Christopher, we're here to talk about your drug problem.
What? Jesus Christ, you fucking kidding me?
Sorry, baby, please.
Multiple characters on The Sopranos struggled with different forms of addiction, but Christopher Moltisanti's battles with alcohol and heroin fully defined his character. When Adriana stages an intervention on behalf of her beloved, we see where the roads paved with good intentions lead. The inability of Christopher's friends and family to offer constructive criticism or even a shred of empathy get played for laughs, and the gags here are hilarious, but also for pathos via Michael Imperioli's amazing performance. Watch Chris's face when Carmela remembers seeing him high at Livia's wake. It's the look of a man who doesn't even have the strength to pantomime denial. By the end of the session, all hell has broken loose, as you might expect, but the glimpses we get of Christopher's guilt and helplessness in the face of his compulsions are sobering stuff.
You're here to rob me. No, what are you, crazy? Just calm down, okay? You're a disgrace to your mother. Don't set that thing off.
It takes a certain kind of monster to suffocate an old woman to death in her home, and Paulie Gualtieri fits the description perfectly. His murder of poor elderly Min Marone is the flip side to his overgrown mama's boy act, and it makes a perverse kind of pathological sense that a 60-year-old man, so devoted to his sainted ma, would feel catharsis smothering a woman who could be her doppelganger. Not only is this a defining moment for Paulie, but it calls back specifically to Tony's attempt to smother Livia back in Season 1, and more generally draws a bead on the desperate, petty greed that drives these guys under the pretenses of mafia honor and tradition. At the end of the day, these made men are just lost boys, and as Min puts it in what turn out to be her final words, Paulie is truly a little bastard.
You were so fucking hateful.
Look at Edie Falco's eyes during the hellacious fight that rounds off the all-time great episode Whitecaps. They're red and bleary, but the person they belong to is seeing things clearly. The catharsis of Carmela's choice to kick Tony out after his years of serial infidelity is powerful stuff, and yet Falco is too good an actress to make it seem like the character owns the moral high ground. She herself is on shaky footing, but Tony's is even shakier, and as long as she keeps his hypocrisy in her sights, Carmela won't be playing for the tie. It takes two to tango, of course, and Gandolfini is every bit his scene partner's equal, with Tony using what limited ammunition he has to take his best shots and landing a bit of collateral damage, though not enough ultimately. The staging, blocking, and interpersonal details are all brilliantly precise, right down to Tony appropriating his late mother's catchphrase, "poor you," to mock his wife's wounded feelings. It's a Freudian slip suggesting a rotten apple fallen not too far from the tree.
Why's it gotta be something mean? Why can't you repeat something good?
There's the coyote.
The button on the end of this scene, Junior watching a nature documentary and pointing out the appearance of a coyote, is melancholy and poetic. Like the coyote, Junior is a wily opportunistic predator, and he may recognize his mirror image on the television screen. But a coyote is also a thief, and at this point in the series, Junior is losing his lucidity to a steadily encroaching dementia that renders him helpless in spite of his fearsome accomplishments and reputation. It's as if his entire personality is being stolen. In its low-key way, the exchange between Tony and his uncle is as nakedly emotional as The Sopranos ever gets, with Tony flat out asking the man he's revered as a father figure for most of his life,
Don't you love me?
The question is whether Junior doesn't answer because he's lost in a reverie or because he's using his condition as an escape hatch out and away from his feelings. There's something ominous here, a subtle hint of the tragic violence that will erupt between an even more far-gone Junior and Tony several episodes down the line. Junior's throwaway mark about the coyote has the whisper of premonition.
Excuse me. Is this the Affinity reunion?
Hello there. They're waiting for you.
Me?
Tony's adventures in Limbo culminate in a visit to what only can be called the Sopranos' House of the Dead. Presence on the patio of a spectral figure resembling Livia suggests that for Tony, this secluded manor is its own private hell. Of all the dream sequences on The Sopranos, and there were a lot of them, this might be the most elegantly chilling, offsetting the show's usual depiction of death as a sudden shock via the visual language of a haunted house thriller. In his subconscious disguise as Kevin Finnerty, Tony is being invited to leave the world of the living of his own free will. As little Carmine might say,
Very allegorical.
the ghosts of dead friends and family, the suitcase representing the earthly affairs he can't quite let go of, Meadow's voice calling to him through the vast of night. If you wanted to deconstruct it, there's plenty to analyze, but as it plays on screen, it is simply frightening and sublime, forcing Tony to momentarily gaze into the abyss and us to stare it down with him.
Leonardo was a great Italian, and that was our name originally, Leonardo. But many years ago, when my grandpa came over from Sicily, they changed it at Ellis Island to Leotardo.
What did they do that for?
Because they're stupid, that's why.
There's a great verbal joke in the lead up to this scene, as Phil Leotardo explains the roots of his hypermasculine rage, through his ancestors being misidentified at Ellis Island under his surname that bastardizes their original Italian moniker, Leonardo. For Phil Leotardo, the switched consonant reflects a kind of existential disrespect, erasing the memory of Renaissance artists and old world innovators with a feminized form of ballet costume. Suddenly, we get a sense of where Phil is coming from, and also maybe what he's going to do about it. No more of this, he tells Butchie, suggesting he's finally going to take all of that anger out on Tony and his crew, and that there will be blood. The use of John Cooper Clarke's throbbing, terrifying song poem, evidently Chicken Town, is what puts the moment over the top. The music has the demonic sound of a dark spell being cast on the Sopranos universe.
No more, Butchie. No more of this.
The strange beacon, perceived by Tony in his dream life as Kevin Finnerty, pops up a few more times in the final season of The Sopranos. It's glimpsed flashing against the Paris skyline by Carmela, who doesn't glean its significance, and again as a blinding solar flare during the desert-set outro of Kennedy and Heidi, as a sweaty, disheveled, peyote-tripping Tony looks to the heavens for a sign. Same principle as the solar system he'd informed his female companion during a Vegas winning streak at the roulette tables, in the sense that by the end, the character in a series built around him were grasping for something cosmic finds its apotheosis in this vision quest imagery. Tony believes his newfound good luck is the direct result of having killed Christopher, extinguishing his erratic nephew as a source of bad juju, and yet even as he posthumously belittles Christopher's addictions at Christopher's funeral, Tony is trapped in his own vicious cycle of addiction and excess, a vortex of monstrous rationalizations that keep him from making any moral progress. Same principle as the solar system then, and at the end of Kennedy and Heidi, Tony's worldview finally goes supernova. Crying out, "I get it," as he and his latest tryst gazed into the horizon, he's literally blinded by the light, which in turn is what keeps him from actually seeing it.
I get it!
We hope that you've enjoyed this list of our favorite scenes from The Sopranos. Feel free to let us know which ones we missed, which ones we got wrong, and whether you think there's anything in The Many Saints of Newark that lives up to its source material in the comments. Thanks very much, and everybody take care.